Hello! Welcome to Zebadextra v Phebo, your favorite podcast / YouTube channel where we review movies, we occasionally review books, and we occasionally talk about new TV shows. But today we're going to be talking about a new movie. Specifically Guardians of the Galaxy Part 3.
Oh, wow. There's 3 of them?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
We are Marvel fans at this house, so I was excited to go see this. I picked the movie, and Tim's going to review it for us.
I will do that.
Before he gets into a full spoilery review, he's going to give you a sentence but little synopsis so that you can know if you don't know what the show's about. What's it about?
The show is about a fun, kick-ass group of superheroes that are attempting to save one of their friends.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good, fun ride. We had kids there.
Depending on the age of your kids, don't really recommend it.
Yeah, our youngest there was 7. I wish she'd have been at least 9.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would say, anything 9 and up, maybe.
Well, it just really depends on
it depends on you.
Yep.
So there's a good bit of action. There are a few scenes where it's semi-gory.
Mm-hmm.
Not too bad on the gore, but there's at least one scene that's pretty
bloody.
Yeah, PG-13 at least.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some language in this.
Mm-hmm.
But overall, it's a rocking good time, and
it takes place in space. If you didn't know.
Oh, is that where the alien sharks from John Ringo's book that we just reviewed came from?
I don't know. I've only read one. You've read all 12 or 11.
Oh,
yeah.
Gotcha.
All right, so we're going to get into it. If that sounds like a good time to you, you can listen to Tim explain the whole thing to you.
Whole thing.
And we'll save you about 3 hours of your time.
You
if
think?
you'd like to.
It's probably going to take me 2 hours to go through.
No.
There's a lot of detail in this.
All right, let's kick it off, sir.
So in the opening scenes, you see Rocket, and Rocket is kind of a brown color. He's a raccoonish character. He does a lot of tinkering with things.
He's a brown color.
Yeah, he's brown.
What does that have to do with anything?
I'm going into details here,
no.
baby. Details.
No.
Speaking of details, he has one.
Yeah.
He does.
He doesn't like to be called a raccoon, though.
He does not.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that?
He doesn't think he's a raccoon?
He does not think he's a raccoon. We'll get back to that. All right, so in the beginning, right, Peter is drunk.
Who's Peter?
Peter Quill.
Well, they
Star
might not know.
Lord.
They might not know.
I'm sorry, if you haven't watched the first 2, go back and watch those, then come back. Because they're also really fun.
Yeah.
Star-Lord, a.k.a. Peter Quill, is from Earth originally.
Does he have superhero powers? He doesn't.
No.
No, he did in the second one.
No,
Spoiler.
in the second one, he has the equipment. It's all equipment for him. He's kind of like the Batman of space.
In the second one, Ego teaches him how to access
You are
his powers.
correct. You are
But
correct.
then he loses
Score
his
1
powers.
for Phebo. That's right. He does have powers in the second one, but not in the first or the third.
So mainly he's just like a good shooter, a good fighter.
A good guy. Ish.
But the rest of his companions have superpowers. Well, Drax is just really strong.
Drax is strong. Moth can...
Mantis.
Oh, did I... Yeah.
Moth.
Mothra. Yeah. So Mantis, she can do... she can like touch people and use telepathy to input stuff into their minds.
Mm-hmm.
Nebula doesn't have any superpowers.
Well, she's mostly robot.
She is mostly robot. That is true. Gamora.
She's just strong, I think.
Yeah,
right?
she's just badass.
Yeah. Groot.
I am Groot.
Groot is a tree that can regrow.
Yeah.
So that's pretty super.
That is pretty super.
All right, so Peter Quill's the main character, and he's drunk.
He is drunk because, spoiler for the previous movie, Gamora has died. Mm-hmm. Actually, that was in
Yeah.
That was in
It
the
was
first
in the
one.
end game, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right.
Not in the first one.
Yeah, you're right. That was in Endgame.
Maybe we should have rewatched the first two.
So yes, that happened in Avengers Endgame with the
Right.
Infinity Stones.
So his love doesn't know who he is even.
Right, because she's brought back, but she has no knowledge of him. She
Yeah.
remembers being Nebula's sister, but she has no knowledge of her and Peter, their love. And so he is like really taking it hard, and he's having a hard time getting himself out of the bottle. Um,
Where do
so
they live right now?
they live in a big giant head, big giant.
Is it
skull.
Ego's head?
No, the head is actually they talk about it in one of the previous ones, and it's the head of a giant figure that was in space and died many millions of years ago. And now they inhabit its head and they mine it to get.
Yeah. I didn't know that till the very end of this movie.
Oh, you didn't?
No, but the place where the Guardians are living is inside this giant skull, which they also have turned into a spaceship.
Yes, there's a whole community of like refugees that live there. So they're kind of the guardians of the galaxy and guardians of these refugees. So while we're there, a sovereign, which is a gold-skinned person from a previous movie. I think that was
Number
one.
two.
I think it was
two.
one. I think it was one. Remember
The
when they
beginning
steal
of
the
number
batteries?
two, they're on the spaceship and they steal the batteries.
Oh, okay. So it was two then. Score 2 for Phebo. Anyhow, so there's a being that was created called Warlock.
Adam Warlock.
And he's Adam Warlock. And he comes flying in. He kicks everybody's butt.
Yeah, we don't really know too much about him, right?
Yeah, at this point, you don't know anything.
All of a sudden, he just attacks nowhere.
Out of
just
nowhere,
shooting straight through and destroying everything in its path.
Yeah, and he hits Rocket, the raccoon, and damages him. And then he leaves. But they go to try and save Rocket, and they find that he has this passcode that they have to find.
They put these med packs on him.
Yeah, and it was like short circuiting. It
Yeah.
was like electrocuting him almost.
Meanwhile, the other Guardians of the Galaxy are fighting Adam Warlock to try to get him to stop killing everybody, but Mantis and Peter are trying to save Rocket.
Right, and so they find out that they can't do anything with him because his creator put a passcode that makes it so that you can't operate on him and you cannot use med packs on him because he is considered proprietary to this group.
Yeah. So there's these peoples that are covered in gold. That's their skin color is gold.
And they're called the Sovereign.
The Sovereign, and they were from the last movie. And in this movie, we find out that there's a ultimate creator of those people.
Correct.
And he's gonna be the bad guy in this movie.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. While we're trying to save Rocket, we get some flashbacks into when he was created.
Yeah, because we've never
Yeah,
known, and he doesn't like to talk about it.
Yeah, he doesn't like to talk about it, but in this movie, you actually get to see the creation of Rocket and his friends. In the where he was created, he was penned up with 3 other creatures.
Yeah.
One was an otter that had mechanical arms.
So think Toy Story 2.
Yes, that's a very good analogy.
Where the neighbor likes to take parts of different things and put them together. The creator guy, his name's not the creator. What is it? It's like Evolutioner? High Evolutioner or something.
I believe that's what it is.
So he's just performing tests on these different animals. He's trying to make creatures that are higher
level life forms that are non-aggressive. Because later on in the movie, you find out that he's creating a, what did he call it?
A Neo-Earth or not Earth?
Yeah.
It's in the notes.
Okay.
Anyway, so Rocket started with a whole pack of other little raccoons. We get to see him way at the beginning. He gets brought out. He gets tortured / experimented on, which was very non-kid friendly. And And so he starts from a baby, and then he gets put in these cages. He's near all these other. There's an otter, there's a walrus, and there's a bunny.
Yes.
And he's the one with the highest intellect, it seems like, out of the 4. But so he makes friends with them, but they're kept in really bad conditions.
Yes. Yes. And the whole way through, like his flashbacks, you see him like, and if you know Rocket from the previous movies, he steals things. Little things here and there, and
I didn't catch that until the very end.
Yeah, he would steal things and then he hid them in his pen.
Okay.
Like under like the food or under the bedding and stuff like that. So the guy that the high evolutioner, he's the one that created Rocket, and so he's the one that would have the passcode to allow them to work on Rocket and save him. So they decide that they're going to go where they could possibly find this passcode.
So now we're back at current time.
Right, we're back at current time with the rest of the Guardians of the Galaxy. They decide to they know where the headquarters of this place is.
There must be something in the code that
Nebula found. Yeah, the code showed that he was the property of this Omega Corp or something like that. Sorry, I didn't jot it
because
down.
Nebula is mostly robots. She can like connect into machines and interact with machines, and so she can read stuff like that.
Right. So they read that code. They decide to go break in, and when they get there, there's like 3 shields, and they have to reset their harmonics on their shields so that they can pass through and get to this thing, which is basically a giant bio orb. So they described it as a
it just all looked like tissue.
Yeah, exactly.
There's just like a big blob of tissue floating in space, but it's like a building.
Right.
But it's grown out of tissue.
Right. So yeah. So they get through, they cut a hole, and they get in.
Who's with them?
At this point, it is Peter, Drax, Mantis, Groot, Nebula, and Gamora.
Yeah, and why is Gamora with them?
Gamora is now one of the Ravagers, and Nebula promised her $100,000 to help them get in. So
before Peter Quill became Guardians of the Galaxy, he sometimes worked for these space pirates and was raised by a space pirate, and they call them Ravagers in this thing. And Gamora, instead of being with all these people, now she's not affiliated with them at all. She's over with the Ravagers.
Right.
Who, one of them is Sylvester Stallone, by the way.
Correct.
So, but she got hired by Nebula to come help them break into this place.
Correct.
So that's why she's there.
So they break in, and security is called to the area that they broke in. They all take off their spacesuits, and then they have like maintenance worker uniforms on underneath. Well, Mantis is like, oh, here, put them all in here because the security was coming. And it turns out that was a, what did they?
A trash?
Yeah, it's like a trash chute.
Yeah.
So as she's standing, as they're standing there explaining to Nathan Fillion, who comes in as the head guard.
Yeah.
They're talking to him, and you can see the window, all their spacesuits go floating by.
Right, so they don't have an extraction method
right,
now.
So now they don't have any way to get out. So they plan to have, I think it's Groot.
Groot? Is it only Groot on the ship left?
I think so.
Yeah.
So Groot is going to dock with the space shuttle dock area of this building.
This blob?
Yeah. And
so the whole time they're in this blob, they know there's like super high security, and they have to be really careful because they have to find this code or Rocket's going to die any minute.
Right.
But the whole time they're there, it's really tense because they're about to be discovered at every moment.
Every moment, yeah. And so they find where the data storage is, and they take the data storage manager hostage.
Oh,
And so she gives them this orb that has all of Rocket's
info on
it.
Yeah.
So you don't know it at this point, but um, you find out shortly that the passcode has been deleted from this
Mm.
information. And so they get this orb, they fight their way around, and
Yeah, it's
it's
fun.
a fun funny fight.
The whole time, by the way, Peter's trying to convince Gamora that they would actually be good together, but Gamora is
Yes.
just like a whole different side of herself. She's cruel, she doesn't care about people, and she certainly feels no attachment to him. So
Right.
they have this funny fight banter going
Yes.
on the whole time.
The whole time, the whole way through. So Groot crashes the ship into the building,
Hmm.
and they get in and they take off.
So basically, they didn't even need to go to the blob. That was a whole waste of time.
It kind of was. It
Yeah.
kind of was, but they didn't find that out until after Groot came in and crashed. They all
Yeah.
loaded up, and then they went and they were looking through the orb, and they found out that the passcode had been deleted like an hour earlier.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh.
and so Peter had actually bumped into the guy that had it has like this metal storage device on his
Uh-huh.
on the side of his head, and that's the guy who had deleted it.
Oh.
So now they have to find him to be able to save Rocket.
And on the orb, besides the passcode, they found videos of the experiments done on Rocket and things like that, so they know
They know
what
what's happened to
Yeah.
them. They decide that they're going to now crash Omnicorp's main headquarters where the High Evolutionary is, because that's where the guy with the metal attachment is.
And this is on the new place that he created that's supposed to be like Earth,
Right.
right?
A counter Earth?
Counter Earth.
Counter Earth is what I think he calls it.
Yeah.
And so they go to this counter Earth.
Well, they're gonna go there, and Gamora's like, "This is obviously a trap."
It's obviously a trap, and Peter keeps going.
It's not a trap. It's a standoff or something.
Yeah. It's a standoff, and so Gamora's mad. She doesn't want to go. She wants them to drop her off with the Ravagers, but they don't have time.
Mm-hmm.
So they're like, "No, we're going to go do this." So she goes down in the bowels of the ship and transmits out like an SOS code, and it's picked up by the Sovereign Queen and Adam Warlock.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, "Oh yeah, we'll come help you."
Mm-hmm.
And so now the Sovereign are now tracking them again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So they land on this planet, looks just like Earth,
Mm-hmm.
right? In fact, when they're flying in, there's a Statue of Liberty there.
Really? Oh, I
Yeah,
missed
you
that.
missed that.
Yeah.
There's a Statue of Liberty there, but it's the High Evolutionary
Oh.
holding a monkey.
Wow. Okay.
You know, because the Statue of Liberty is holding a tablet.
Mm-hmm.
He's holding a monkey instead.
Okay.
So they land, and all of these different creatures come up to them. In a previous flashback, they showed Rocket with the High Evolutionary, and the High Evolutionary is showing Rocket how.
Sorry, no, my nose started to.
Okay.
Well, so when he created Rocket, he was like literally tinkering with him, inserting machinery and stuff.
Right.
And now.
And now he just has this pod that he puts creatures in, like a turtle, and it does like 1,000,000 years of evolution in like a minute.
Yeah.
And the problem is like with this turtle that they evolve, they're supposed to be peaceful, but they're aggressive.
Mm-hmm. Like every animal he tries.
Every animal he tries is aggressive. And Rocket's like, "Well, your valve, you need to fix this."
Yeah, he just takes one look at it and he's like,
"Yeah,
that's the thing.
this is the problem." And so the High Evolutionary is like, "How does he understand this?" And is this when he escapes? No, not yet.
Well, so then later we get another flashback where he's like, "Look, we fixed it. Your suggestion fixed it,
Yeah.
and now you can create these peaceful creatures
Right.
without doing the tinkering and stuff." But then at that point, he tells his scientists, he's like, "Now all these other guys that we experimented on aren't necessary, so we're going to destroy them all."
We're just going to destroy them. and I want to remove Rocket's brain to see how that works.
Yeah. And I think this is before they land on that planet.
It is.
So then we find out how Rocket escaped.
Right. And so Rocket had all of these parts, like I mentioned earlier, that he had hidden in his cage. And he's planning on escaping with Lila, Teefs, and Floor.
Mm-hmm.
That's the name.
They named themselves.
They gave themselves names. And so he assembles the parts that he has, and it's a pass key that will let him open the cages. So he opens his cage, and then he opens Lila's, and she's standing there talking to him, and she gets shot. The High Evolutionary is there, and he's like, "I knew you would do this." So, yeah. And so he calls for his guards to come in, and he's like, "Kill all the other ones. I want the raccoon alive." And so the guards are coming in, and Rocket is shooting at them because he has a gun he picked up. And he kills all of them except for the High Evolutionary. And then he looks back and realizes that the guards had killed Teefs and Floor. So now all three of his buddies are dead. And he just goes into a rage, and he charges the High Evolutionary and just starts scratching him and raking up his face. So then Rocket takes fights his way out, and he finds a spaceship and he takes off. So that's kind of the end scene there. And then we go back to Peter on the planet on Counter Earth with the Bat Lady.
So they land on Earth, and they can't understand anybody.
Right.
So they can't explain that they're peaceful. And a little kid throws a ball at Drax, and he just picks it up and throws it right at her head. And so now they think they're aggressive. So everybody starts throwing rocks.
Everybody's throwing rocks at them. And this lady falls down. She's like a bat lady, and she falls down and has scraped her knee. And so Peter offers her a piece of cloth to clean up with. And then she decides to help them. She lets them use her car. And they go to where the High Evolutionary is at with the guy with the chunky metal head.
The Evolutionary's two main scientists, they have like this thing in their head.
Yeah, it's like a data storage device in their head. They drive over there, and it's Peter and Nebula.
Okay.
They drive over, and
what are Drax and Mantis supposed to be doing?
So Drax and Mantis are supposed to be watching the ship.
Okay.
And Gamora is also there.
Oh yeah, but she's just like, I don't want anything to do with this.
Right. And so
and Rocket's on the ship.
Well, yeah, Rocket's on the ship,
Where's
but he's
Groot?
unconscious. He
must be with Mantis and...
No, he's with Nebula and...
He went in the car with them?
Yeah, he's with them.
Okay.
So it's Peter, Nebula, and Groot in the car. They get there, and they won't let Nebula in because she's basically a weapon. And they're like, no weapons are allowed in with him.
I missed that.
Yeah. So they scan Peter. He comes up with no weapons. And they escort him in with the High Evolutionary.
And Groot?
Yeah, Groot and Peter go up. And then the High Evolutionary is just being like a jerk. And Peter tries to talk, and he just goes like this. He's, he goes back to doing whatever he was doing. And then Peter sees the guy that they're looking for, and he's like, "Hey, you!" And that's when he gets the Evolutionary's attention.
The Evolutionary, by the way, has this really weird skin thing. His face looks regular right here, but then after that, it looks like super, like smoothed out skin. Like you photoshopped it really, really smooth, and then the back of his head is like wires and stuff.
Yes, yeah.
And then it looks like the skin is like stretched over the wires.
Yes.
Yeah. So he's really creepy looking the whole time.
Kind of creepy looking. As they're standing there talking, this is when Drax decides
he's not waiting anymore.
He's not waiting, and so he knocks some guy off a motorcycle, and he gets on the motorcycle, and Mantis is like, we're supposed to stay with the ship. And he's like, I'm going to the ship.
Yeah.
And she's like, you mean the ship that's right there? And he's like, yeah. And so she gets on and he just like takes off. And she's like, no, this isn't right. And so they're heading now towards the same place. Um,
So that only leaves Gamora in charge of Rocket.
right. Gamora is now there taking care of Rocket and just minding the ship, I guess.
Yeah.
So at this point, War Pig, the High Evolutionary tells War Pig.
So he has like this giant, what did it look like, an owl? Like a seal owl?
No.
And a war pig? There were two creatures.
Oh, I didn't recognize the first one, but the second one was like a warthog with like mechanical legs and turrets and
It was like, it looked like Rocket's friends from the beginning, but much
Yes.
larger versions.
much larger.
But there were two. There was a pig and there was something else.
Yeah, I didn't see what the something else was, so I apologize
That's
for
okay.
that.
So War Pig just stole onto the ship and grabbed Rocket.
Right, War
Okay.
Pig comes in, grabs Rocket, and this is when Gamora starts to fight War Pig.
Yeah.
And that's also when Adam Warlock comes in.
Yeah, he just comes zooming in again.
Yeah, he comes zooming in and he lands in front of War Pig, and he's like, I'm going to need to take the raccoon.
Yeah.
And the War Pig's like, we're on the same team. It doesn't matter. And he's like, no, I need the credit for it. So I'm going to be taking him. And War Pig's like, I don't think so. And Adam Warlock just reaches out and just
Rips her head off.
Rips her head right off.
So I don't know if this is true to the comics, but Adam Warlock in this film, he's supposed to be like a tween. Like he's a young,
Yes.
he has a man's body and all of these powers, but he's not grown yet. He's not matured. So the evolutionary made him evolutionize really fast, and he's not ready. So he makes some really adolescent decisions.
Yes, he's very adolescent. And is this where he picks up the pet? Was War Pig the one that had the pet?
No, the guy that had the comm from Gamora when they went and just destroyed that guy. How they intercepted Gamora's message was they had captured a Ravager and they were going to question him, and Adam Warlock just disintegrated him instead of question him, but he had this little pet.
Right, and then when she transmitted, it was over the intercom that he had. Okay. Sorry
so he has
about
this
that.
little cute pet with him.
Yeah, he has this little pet, and his mom's like, get rid of it. And he's like, no, I want to keep it.
His mom is the gold lady from the second movie.
Yes.
And she's like, she doesn't seem very queenly in this movie because she's being pushed around a lot by this evolutionary guy. But by the way, his mom, she looks the same age as him. She's not really his mom. She's just like the person who's raising him, right?
That's his mom.
Well, I just mean she didn't birth him.
I mean, that's literally...
Right?
No, he was birthed in a tube.
Right.
But he refers to her as mom.
Right. I just wanted to point out they look the same age.
Right.
So Adam Warlock killed the pig.
Right.
And Gamora had run away before that with Rocket? Oh, when he was doing that, she took off.
Yeah, she took off and like jumped out the back of the ship. And then ran around to the front and ran in the front of the ship.
It's because when she started running away, the High Evolutionary started raising the planet.
Right.
She was like, oh.
So the High Evolutionary, back in that building, Groot, like, sprouts all of these limbs, right? And he's like pulling guns out from inside himself.
I forget how it started getting hostile.
When the High Evolutionary told him he was just going to have to start over with a new planet, that's when they were going to try and get the guy with the headpiece.
Yeah.
And so they started shooting everybody in there.
Oh. And he was like, "You're going to destroy all these people?" And he's like, "Yeah, I've done it multiple times before."
Yeah. And so Peter grabs the scientist that he's looking for.
And they do a Jarnathan.
And he does it. You really love that phrase,
I love that part.
So he does a Jarnathan, And he
If you haven't watched our Dungeons and Dragons review, go watch it.
it's in there. So he jumps out the window, just the two of them, and the guy's like, "You're gonna just jump from 15,000 feet and kill us both?" And he's like, "No, not us both." And then Groot jumped out, and it was funny because Groot then grew like these wings out of the sticks that make up his body. And he grabs a hold of Peter. So he's got Peter, and Peter has this scientist, and they crash into
land
the earth.
on the scientist.
And they land on the scientist and use him as a brake. And then they pry the thing out of his head.
Yeah. So right before this evolutionary, he just started bombing the whole world.
It was blowing up.
And his spaceship is raising up. So they're getting higher and higher and up. So he jumped out from even higher to get down with this scientist. And like the whole Earth now is destroyed. But what about Gamora on her ship?
So Gamora takes off, remember?
So it's just her and Rocket?
So her and Rocket. And
where's Adam Warlock?
Adam went to try and save his mother.
Oh, when he saw what Gamora saw, that the planet was exploding, he's like, Mom! Yeah. So he races back, flies.
Yeah.
And right as she's exploding.
Yeah, and he gets there just as she explodes.
So the Sovereigns are gone now, except for him?
Except for Adam Warlock, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And so it's kind of a jumble here because there's a lot going on.
Jumping around.
So Gamora is trying to fly, but she has no idea how to fly this ship. And so she's like, crashing, hitting trees, hitting everything. The whole time the planet is exploding, right?
Yeah.
Nebula and Groot, Nebula, Drax, and Mantis jump onto the ship where they think Peter still is.
Yeah, so Peter just went, phew, and they just went,
yeah.
And they
so they like swap places.
Yeah. So they're on the outside of the ship as it's raising into the atmosphere. Right.
And so they're having a hard time breathing because the oxygen level's dropping. Drax busts down the door, so they get in, and a force field comes up so that they're in a pressurized environment now. So those three are now on the ship. Gamora crashes the plane and literally crashes right in front of Peter and Groot and almost runs them over.
He's like on the comms with her and he's like, whoever's manning that, pull up.
Yeah, he's like, hit the brakes. And she's like, it's not working. He's like, do it harder. So anyhow, she stops and it's like right in front of him. So now Peter and Groot and Gamora are on this,
and
Raccoon are on Rocket the Raccoon.
And now they finally have the passcode.
And they have the passcode, and they find out what? They find out that they find out that Mantis, Drax, and Nebula are on the ship that he just got off of. So.
Does he start healing Rocket right away? Or does he need Nebula? I can't remember.
No, Gamora and Peter put in the passcode, and it shuts down that like dead man switch, and then they put a wrap on him, a med pack.
Okay.
And heals him up. Okay.
So now they have to turn around and go back towards the ship that's going up in the sky?
Well, hold on. While they're doing this, Rocket is having another dream.
Oh, yeah.
And in his dream, he dies.
Yeah.
And he's in heaven, and
he's visited by
Lila is there.
Do you remember, was Lila in any of the previous ones?
No.
I feel like I remember him saying her name before.
He may have said it. I don't remember. But none of those creatures were in any of
Well, no, I remember that they weren't in it, but I feel like I remember him saying her name.
He might have. So
he sees his friends, and he's so happy to see them.
Yeah, he's very happy, and to be honest with you, he's ready to join them.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, you can join us. And
that's when his body starts quitting on Peter.
Yes.
And they start doing CPR.
Right. And Gamora is yelling at Peter. She's like, he's gone. Yeah. And Peter's like, no, I'm not going to accept that. I'm not going to let him go. And so he's like giving him CPR, and Lila is like, she reaches out and puts a hand on Rocket, and she's like, but not yet.
Mm-hmm.
So now he knows that when he does die, his friends are there, and he's gonna have his friends in heaven to spend it.
And he's like, why not? And she's like, you have work to do.
You have work to do.
And she says, this has always been about you.
Right.
What do you think that meant?
So I think what she was trying to say there was he has always played like a peace character in his own life.
What's a peace character?
So rather than being like the main character, he's always been kind of like a sidekick.
Okay.
Even in his own story. And she's saying, no, this story is about you.
Mm-hmm.
Live it.
Mm-hmm.
Live your story.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really touching.
Yeah.
It was really,
Because if you haven't seen the first two movies, Rocket is funny in his sarcasm and his anger and his pessimism, but you can like he's always just angry and really doesn't really want to be there.
Right.
And so he's just like kind of barely hanging on, but he doesn't have initiative to really do much.
Right.
But now the CPR is going to work and he wakes up.
Right, and he wakes up. Now we cut back to the main ship with the High Evolutionary and Nebula, Drax, and Mantis. And we see that the High Evolutionary has many jail cells.
Oh, the place they opened up was where the jail was?
Yeah, and so they walk in and there's like all these jail cells, and they have just tons of kids.
Yeah.
And it looked like they were all girls.
Well, or they might have just all looked similar. No, yeah. when it shows the two kids playing on that computer against each other, one's a boy and one's a girl.
Okay.
But they're all definitely from some species, from some planet, and he's just like taking all the children.
Yeah, and he's mad because he created these people, and they're like super smart. They can do things that like no other group can do, but they have no initiative.
Mm.
They don't have.
They're not like Rocket.
They don't have. Yeah, they don't have Rocket. If it's not already well defined, they won't be able to make that
creation. He's looking for something else that will create.
Yes, correct.
Okay, so he has all these test subject children in jail, and Nebula, Drax, and Mantis find them and release them.
Well, they start to release them, and then the High Evolutionary comes in, and he catches the three of them and puts them into a jail cell.
Mm-hmm. He like dumps them down into this.
Yeah, he dumps them down into this pit.
Bigger pit. There you go.
Yeah, into this pit, and they're just down there. And
what do you think's in the pit? The pit of despair.
Sarlacc.
What's Sarlacc?
Isn't Sarlacc the name
pit of
Sarlacc? No. I think the Sarlaccs are the.
It's an obelisk.
No, the Sarlaccs are in Star Wars, and
that's a big thing with the teeth.
Yeah, yeah, I believe so. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sure you will.
I know nothing about Star Wars.
So, Peter, Gamora, and Groot and Rocket,
who is now recovered. Oh, recovered.
Yeah, he's healed.
The med packs work pretty quickly unless you have something in your body that says no. Because we watch Mantis's whole arm. She gets her arm broken by Adam Warlock in the beginning, and you put it on, it just goes. Whoop. Adam Warlock, by the way, is super OP. He destroyed Groot like a couple times.
Yeah.
Groot can regrow as long as his head is still there, right?
Yeah, something like that.
But he's just been destroying everybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's pretty crazy.
All the time during this movie, I'm like, but where's that one guy? But where is he? Because he's going to do major damage.
Yeah. So the four of them, Peter, Groot, Gamora, and Rocket, are now going to go save Nebula, Drax, Mantis, and all the children. So that's the plan.
But they don't know there's children there yet, right?
They do, because they're communicating, because
Rocket, he wakes up and he's like, Nebula's signaling you.
Yeah. Are we going to talk to Nebula?
He's the only one that noticed it.
Yeah. and so they talk about it. So they race off to go save all these people, and
he messages.
he messages. We have written down
Yeah,
Yondu's brother,
brother.
but I don't think it's his brother because Yondo is blue and this guy is white. And so I think it was his second in command when he was the leader of the Ravagers.
Okay.
And he had given this guy before he died, before Yondu had died in one of the previous movies, he had given him this arrow.
And it comes with that fin.
It comes with like this fin that lets him control it through telepathy, like through mind.
Oh, we didn't talk about Cosmo at all.
Oh, you're right.
Because she's just kind of like right in the beginning, and then
yeah. So there's a dog, and it's a one of the Russian astronaut dogs, and her name is Cosmo. And in the beginning, her and this guy.
We don't know his name.
I don't know his name.
Yondu's dude.
Yondu's friend.
I'll look it up while you're talking.
They are trying to do these. He's trying to do this thing with the arrow, where he whistles and it goes and it knocks all these things.
Telepathically kill people with his arrow.
Right. So he can telepathically control this arrow, and it'll, he can use it to kill everybody. And then when it goes awry, basically he shoots Nebula, and the dog Cosmos is like, it's not that hard, watch, and she uses telepathy and picks up a pebble and shoots it and hits all the targets that he was supposed to hit, and he's like, you know what, you're just a bad dog.
Yeah.
And the whole way through the movie, every time you see Cosmo, she is like,
she's trying to get him to amend that statement.
Yeah, I'm not a bad girl.
Yeah.
Take it back. And then she's like complaining to everybody, I'm not a bad girl, and he won't take it back.
Yeah. So she's really epic, actually.
Yeah.
So the commander of Nowhere now, his name is Kraglin.
Kraglin.
Yeah.
Like from Kraglin Rock?
Yeah.
Okay.
Craggle Rock, Kraglin. Or release the Kraglin. So he messages to him and he's like, we're going to need some backup. You bring your ship in. So they essentially arrive at the same time on both sides of the high evolutionary ship.
Right. And just a note, they have Adam Warlock on their ship as well. And he is like tied up.
Oh, yeah.
They have him tied up, like chains.
How did they get him down? I don't remember.
I guess they picked him up when he was passed out on the planet.
Oh, maybe he exploded with the mom, but he didn't get killed because he wasn't right in the line of it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Well,
they didn't show that part, did they?
No.
Okay.
No, they didn't. They show him exploding.
Oh yeah, they showed Drax like carrying him, right? Or was it Groot?
Groot. It was Groot, and he's like, "Why would you do that?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's
yeah,
later.
That part's... Oh, is that later? Okay, sorry.
Yeah. And so Adam wakes up. He busts his chains. And then we go to, he flies through Peter's ship.
Oh, yeah, he, like, destroys it again?
Yeah, and there's, the creator had sent out all these, like,
spider things.
Spider robots to attack both the ships.
Yeah.
The Nowhere Skull that's coming in, and Peter's little ship by comparison.
And the spiders get into the skull face and start going into the people that live in there.
Right. And so, yeah, it's kind of bad news at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So now we cut back to the pit with Mantis and Drax and Nebula.
Mm-hmm. And
they're, the High Evolutionary, like, pulled the walls up so that this pit, now the creatures in the pit could get to them. And they are crazy looking creatures. They're ginormous.
They're like squids with huge faces, giant mouth with sharp teeth.
Yeah. Like if you ever watch Dune and you look down in one of those sandworms, it's kind of like that.
Yeah. But very
give
mobile,
it tentacles.
Up on top of
give it all kinds of tentacles. So there's like 3 of them in there, and everything's exploding and they're getting bounced around, and Mantis realizes that they eat batteries.
In the second movie, when they're on that ship,
yes,
getting the batteries, those creatures were there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so now she knows that they eat batteries and they won't eat her. So she walks up and she touches one and soothes it
She
and
puts her face on it and communicates with it.
yeah, and
So now they're buddies.
Peter's ship crashes and self-destructs to try to kill Adam. Is that right?
Yeah, so they crash, and then Gamora and Peter and Rocket are on the ground, and she's like, "Did you do that on purpose?" And then he has like this self-destruct button. Or she was like, "What were you doing right before we landed?" "I was starting the self-destruct or whatever."
Yeah.
So he hits it to explode Adam
Oh,
Warlock.
okay. Gotcha.
So now he has no ship.
He does not.
Hmm.
Um, Kraglin is trying to use the whistle weapon his brother gave him, and he finally figures it out when the city's in desperate need because he sees a vision of Yondu and he's like, from the heart, use the heart, and so Kraglin.
That's what it said, Kraglin.
All right, so Kraglin then he takes out all of the spider things inside the ship.
Oh, good.
So now we've got the skull is jammed up against the high evolutionary's ship, and the dog Cosmo is sitting there on the deck, and she's using telepathy to hold them together. The high evolutionary is like just hell bent on getting Rocket, and he's like, I don't care what it costs, I don't care what it takes. Um, and so he orders all this stuff so that he can capture Rocket, but his scientists that are with him, they all turn on him, but he like
he just does this electric zap and just
well, it explodes like the whole control room that he's in.
Yeah.
And so they were all taken out, and so were the controls.
So is the ship gonna? Is it?
Right. So Gamora uses her hand, and
You mean Nebula?
oh, sorry, yes, Nebula, and Nebula uses her hand and turns it into like these tentacles, the wire tentacles that go down into the controls, so that she can control the ship and help hold it where it's at. Peter is looking for Drax
and
Mantis and Nebula. Sorry, I have that backwards then. So Peter's looking for them, and the three of them come riding in on those obelisks. They break through the wall, and then Nebula and Peter go up to the command deck, and that's when Nebula uses her hand tentacles to control the ship, while Peter goes to rescue the kids and save them. So they're all following Rocket's lead to go save all these children that are there. And Rocket's just like, I am done running. This is my line in the sand. So there's this huge battle going on. The whole time, everybody's trying to get these kids out, and they're also trying to save
to jump from one ship to the next.
From one ship to the other. And Cosmo is sitting there, and I mean, she's like struggling using her telepathy to hold the two together. And all the kids get off, and then
they're like, "Where's Rocket?"
Yeah.
And they said Rocket went to go save the animals.
Yeah. And
so Rocket found a room with all of the trapped animals that he was experimenting on too. Yes. He's like, we're saving these too.
Yeah, so he's there, and the high evolutionary shows up because he's like, I knew you would come to do this. And so there's a big fight scene. The rest of the Guardians come in. They help Rocket fight the high evolutionary. And this is one of those parts right here coming up where it's like, kids beware.
Yeah.
So they have the high evolutionary. They've captured him, and he's like, kill me. And they're like, well, we're not gonna. Rocket's like, I'm not gonna do that. I'm a Guardian. But who was it takes his mask off?
Is it Gamora?
I was thinking that.
Because Mantis is still back helping Cosmo to stay strong, right?
So one of them takes off his mask, and it's just like a gory mess. Like his
it's
nose
eyeballs
is missing.
and a bloody skeleton.
Yeah. Um,
So basically, Rocket had destroyed his whole face when he was
yes.
scratching at him, and he had a mask on the whole time.
Yeah. And so.
And the point is, the evolutionary is trying to make everything perfect.
Right.
But he's not perfect. He's
not
been
perfect.
hiding this whole time, and they're like, we just need to let people be what they are.
Right, right. And so then they break open all the cages, and all the animals are running free, and they're herding them up the ramp, and they're jumping from one ship to the next.
They're all gonna go on nowhere. It's a big herding.
And Peter sees something that Rocket dropped, and so he turns around to go back and pick it up.
I thought Peter dropped the music cassette tape, the thing he uses to play music.
Oh, I thought it was something that Rocket had dropped.
Well, because when Peter was drunk, Rocket took Peter's cassette tapey thing and he was playing music for everybody. I thought it was that.
Okay, it could be. It could be. Because I do remember it was the cassette thing, but for some reason in my mind, it was Rocket that dropped it. So anyhow, Peter turns around to get it, and by the time he gets there to make the jump, they're like, look like a kilometer apart. And he's like, well, I'll try it anyhow. So he does this jump, and as he's jumping, like, he starts to freeze.
So he grabs this big tube to like Tarzan swing across the other ones, but he doesn't make it. This like thing hits him and he doesn't make it. This debris. So now he's just in space, and if you're stuck out in space, you start freezing.
Right.
And so you can just see him crystallizing and freezing over, and everybody on the ship is like,
no. And then out of nowhere, Adam Warlock flies through, grabs him, and brings him to the new ship.
So then tell the part about Groot, because that part was important.
Is it here yet?
So Groot had saved Adam Warlock.
I thought that was part here.
Because Peter had destroyed his ship and Adam Warlock was dead, right? And Groot had picked him up and brought him over, and he was like, why'd you do that? And he said, everybody deserves a second chance.
Yeah.
And so Adam Warlock had been redeemed at that point, and then he's going to come over and try to save Peter.
Right.
So he zooms out into space, grabs Peter, brings him back to the spaceship.
Yeah, and so there was like, as they're doing this, they're now on the new Skull spaceship. They start to do like a group hug, and like everybody's in on it. Even Adam Warlock, he's real tentative. He's like, I don't know about.
You could tell he wants to, but he's like, I don't know if I'm welcome.
Yeah, kind of nervous. Yeah, am I welcome at this party? Gamora sees the whole thing and she walks away. So Groot's talking, and Gamora finally understands him, because the whole way through the movie she's like, you guys are making this up. He's just saying that one thing and you just are putting words in his mouth. And so she finally understands him. They all get together and they're having a group chat now, the whole group. So Peter, Nebula, Gamora, Rocket, Groot, Drax, Mantis, Adam? Was Adam there? I can't remember. And so they're having a talk, and Peter's like, guys, I'm going to leave. I'm going to leave for a while. I have things that I've been running from, and I need to go back to Earth and set them right and make,
Very early in this movie. So Mantis and Peter are sisters.
Well, they're not sisters. Mantis is Peter's sister.
They're siblings, because they were both created by Ego.
Right.
In the second. But you don't find that out till like the end-ish or whatever.
The end, yeah.
So they're siblings. And she was telling him at the beginning, she's like, you should go back to Earth. You should go find your grandfather. Right. Maybe he's still alive.
And it's kind of funny because she's saying that, and he's like, if he was alive, he'd be like 90 years old.
Yeah.
And she's like, so? And he's like, people on Earth live to be 50. And she's like, so?
And then she's like, wait, are you 50?
Yeah.
You're about to be dead. And he's like, I'm not 50.
My daughter looked at me at that point and she goes, Dad, you're 51.
Yeah. So anyway, so he decides he's got to go take some time for healing.
Yes.
And then
Mantis decides the same thing. She's like, I've always been a follower.
Mm-hmm.
I followed Ego, then I followed, the Guardians of the Galaxy. I need to go out and
figure
out my own path.
Mm-hmm.
And Drax is like, I'll go with you.
Yeah.
And she's like, no. So.
And he's like, you need someone to protect you. And she's like, no, you. No. And then Nebula's like, Drax, I need you to stay with me.
Yeah, because Nebula is now in charge of all these kids. And to be honest with you, if you haven't seen any of the previous movies, like, that is like a 180.
Nebula, character-wise, levels up like the most of anybody in the crew in this movie.
Yeah.
She becomes like a fan favorite in this movie. And she tells Drax, she's like, you missed your calling. Your calling is to be a dad.
To be a dad.
Well, he didn't miss his calling. His child had actually been murdered by one of the bad guys in the first movie.
Right, but he was like, because he calls himself Drac the Destroyer. Mm-hmm. And she's like, you're not a destroyer. Mm-hmm. You're a dad.
Yeah. So she needs him to stay there and help. So her new title is, she's going to be like...
She's going to be like the captain of that spaceship.
Okay. Well, I thought that Kraglin was the captain of that spaceship.
Okay, maybe she's just going to be the school marm.
And so now Rocket is the captain of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
Correct.
Because Peter's going to leave.
Right, so he becomes the leader of the Guardians of the Galaxy. And the next part is the first time in any movie with Groot that you as the audience understand what he says.
Right, nobody has to translate for him.
Right, and he says, I love you guys.
I love you guys.
I love you guys.
Which is weird. Like, why do you think they wanted us to hear it? It's like now we're a part of the family?
Maybe.
That's why we understood?
I kind of thought that, honestly. I was like, oh, now we can understand Groot.
Groot is voiced by Vin Diesel, by the way, in case you haven't seen any of the movies.
Maybe he was tired of just saying, I am Groot.
Yeah, I'm sure it was his decision. All right, so is that the very end?
That is not. Peter leaves Rocket, the cassette player. And Rocket turns on this song, and everybody in the Skull ship starts dancing. Mm-hmm. It's kind of fun. And Drax is standing there. And earlier in the movie, he was like...
Well, because he watches...
Dancing stupid.
And he watches Mantis leaves and he tears up.
Yeah.
And he's really sad. She leaves with her obelisks. So he's sad. But then the kids are all around him trying to get him to dance.
Yeah, and so the kids are all dancing. And finally he gets into it. And so he's now dancing. Peter is now on Earth. And he shows up at this house.
There's a woman there he doesn't recognize.
Yeah, and he goes, I'm sorry, I must have the wrong address. I was looking for this guy. And she's like, oh yeah, come on in. And so she escorts him through this house, and there's pictures of him and his mom and his grandpa on the wall, and there was like a stitching that said something like family is everything.
That he is remembered, his mom is remembered, and their family is celebrated.
Yeah. And so he walks out on the back porch, and his grandfather looks up, and he's like, Peter? Mm-hmm. And then they hug. And it's a really sweet scene.
And that's the end.
Is it?
I don't know.
No, it's not.
Okay.
And then they cut over to Gamora.
Oh, yeah.
And she's being reunited with the Ravagers. And everybody's like super excited to see her, and they hug, and
this is her family. You see her smile for the first time in the whole movie.
Right. And so this is now her family, and so that's the end. And in the end, it's like what they were trying to say was family is the most important thing. You may have other things to do in life, but family is something you should never forget. I think that's what I picked out of it.
Okay, and then we have two
We did. We had two cutscenes
Post
after
slash end credits.
after the credits rolled. Um, the first one is the Guardians are now on this planet. They're trying to protect this village.
Yeah, tell us who the new Guardians are.
The Guardians are Groot, Rocket, Adam Warlock, some little girl.
One of the girls they rescued.
Yeah, one of the girls they rescued. Was that it?
Kraglin.
Oh, and Kraglin, yes.
Drax and Nebula weren't there?
No.
Okay.
No.
Yeah, Kraglin's there too.
Yeah, so they're the new Guardians of the Galaxy. And they were like this horde of whatever.
Yeah, they're just like chatting.
Yeah.
On this planet while the people behind them are freaking out.
Eating a snack.
Yeah.
And Kraglin's like, I could take care of all of them.
Yeah.
And Rocket's like, no, this is a team.
Aww.
And so then they were like, well, then just give us the word, Rocket. And he waits for another few seconds, and he goes, word. And then they charge off, and that's all you see there.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the second cut scene, it's Peter, and he's sitting there with his grandpa, and
they're having breakfast.
Yeah, Peter's having cereal, and so he's like eating his cereal, and talking to his grandpa. And there was something on the newspaper. Did you see that?
Yeah, it was about Kevin Bacon. Kevin Bacon talks about the kidnapping or whatever.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That happened in the Disney Plus special.
The Christmas, yes, gotcha. I saw Kevin, but I couldn't see what it was. So, and then it says Star-Lord will return.
Yeah. So basically, he's just chatting with his dad. They're talking about how the dad's wife's adult son lives at the house, and you gotta get rid of this kid. So they're just,
Something about being 45 years old and mowing the lawn.
Yeah, so they're just getting to know. It just shows them they're getting to know each other, building a relationship, and then Star-Lord. That's hard to say. So that's the end.
That is.
Big whoops from everybody. It seemed like our audience really enjoyed it.
Yeah. I hope our audience does too.
So, hopefully, if you were planning on seeing it, you paused at the beginning, you went and watched it, and then now you have thoughts you can share with us in the comments below. So, you know all of our thoughts. What was your favorite part?
Favorite part?
I know there was a lot of good banter in this movie. Usually, Rocket has some of the best lines, but he was in a coma for like the whole thing.
Yeah.
And so you didn't get any of his funny humor, but Drax and Mantis are always some of my favorites.
I know what my favorite part was. So when Peter is standing there with Nebula, and he's talking to Gamora, and I can't remember what they were talking about, but he was like, I've waited for you, and I care for you, and she said something about it's probably her, and pointed to Nebula. And like he just like stops talking, and he looks at Nebula with like these moon cow eyes.
Yeah.
And he's like, you have very pretty eyes. And she's like, yeah, Thanos replaced them. They're black. And he's like, yes, but they're a very nice black.
Yeah. That was your favorite part?
That was pretty fun. I enjoyed that.
That was interesting to me. I was like, are they trying to say that Thanos and Nebula are going to... Or Thanos and Nebula.
No.
Peter and Nebula are going to get together?
I know. That's what I thought, too.
But it was weird how, like, in his despair, and he's sitting there talking to Gamora and trying to get her back, now he just jumps to the other sister?
Yeah.
That
he's
seemed
like,
weird. Yeah. I don't know.
The thing is he probably has some feelings for her.
For Nebula?
Yeah, because they've been through a lot together. Now, whether it's romantic, who knows? Maybe in Guardians 4 they'll get together.
I don't know.
And have some, robotic angel babies.
I don't think he's an angel anymore.
I don't think so either, but maybe his kids
I don't think he ever was an angel. He was a god.
Okay.
Right?
So maybe he'll have robotic god babies with Gamora. Or Nebula.
Yeah, Peter Quill, he was half god in the second movie.
Yeah.
And he ended up giving it up so that he could save something. I forget what. Anyway, so we liked it.
Did we?
Yeah, we liked it.
I didn't like it.
Oh, you loved it?
I loved
Oh,
it.
okay, good.
I did love it.
But again, I kind of wish we went to go see it by ourselves and didn't take our kids. They
absolutely.
were bored, but they were also scared and disturbed on the testing on animals. And honestly, I hadn't even seen a single review, or not review. I definitely hadn't seen a review, but I hadn't seen any trailers.
Trailers.
So I didn't know what kind of content was in it, but maybe next time we're thinking of taking our kids to a PG-13, we should look at that website that's like with kids in mind, where it tells you what content's in it.
And I'm just going to throw this out there. We don't take kids with us.
Well, sometimes we take them with us, like to Super Mario Bros. And stuff.
Okay, well, Super Mario Brothers, that's kind of...
Well, anyway. So, yeah. And this was directed by James Gunn, by the way, which is the brother of Kraglin, which is why I think I was associating Kraglin and Yondu as brothers.
Oh, is he really? That's Tom Gunn?
Tom Gunn? Yeah. Sean Gunn.
Sean Gunn? There's also a Tom Gunn in it.
Sean Gunn? Oh, Tom Gunn's in it too? Well, the director... Tom Gunn. Will Poulter. Oh.
What?
He looked so different in that movie.
Who's that?
He's from Crazy Rich Asians.
Oh, he was the recorder. He was the one that they had to get the thing from the side of his head.
So, James Gunn wrote and directed this film, and we enjoyed it. I think that didn't he direct the Suicide Squad, the one that was like super gory and crazy?
I think he did one of them.
Yeah. Anyway, so we recommend just maybe don't take your young kids, but up to you. It just was kind of grotesque.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's gonna be it. So, what is our next movie review, Tim?
Oh, I don't know. I was thinking, and I'm gonna say this wrong. Sisu?
You said it right.
I did.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm thinking Sisu.
Think John Wick, but during World War II.
He's Norwegian.
So we've got another John Wick massacre on our hands.
Yeah, it looked pretty crazy.
So if you want to go watch that, so you can be prepared for our review, we will not be taking the children.
Why not?
So
I wouldn't take the children to see the trailer.
I didn't even see the trailer.
I did. I watched the trailer and I was like, ooh, okay, this is John Wick-esque.
Yeah.
But a little more gory, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this video. Thank you for joining us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and if you leave a comment, it really helps our channel out.
It does.
So make sure to leave a comment and share with anybody who is wondering if they should go see this film.
Share with everybody.
Yeah.
You just go into your contact list and share with everybody. Share all.
All right. So we'll see you back for a Sisu, sounds like, unless something else happens, review. We also have a new episode of After Just One Episode, which talks about 9 new TV shows, and that will be coming up soon for you as well.
Are any of them any good?
Yes.
Surprisingly.
Yeah. We liked
I
a
agree.
few.
Yeah, I did. I liked a few.
All right.
You know the worst part about that whole After One Episode?
Yes, I know the worst part.
What's the worst part?
Because then you have to wait for like 3 weeks to get to watch any more episodes.
I know. Not only that, but I'm like, now I've got like 18 series that I want to watch.
Yeah.
And I ain't got time for that.
So definitely stop back in for that if you like TV.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be it.
All right.
So we'll say so long. Farewell. Auf Wiedersehen.
Oh my goodness, I knew that was coming.
All right, guys. Have a great rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.